One of the best things about being a kid is having heroes, and I had many. Most were football players who played for my beloved Pittsburgh Steelers. Me, Joe Green, Terry Bradshaw, Franco Harris, and Rocky Bleier. I also looked up to Arnold Schwarzenegger after I started lifting weights. I admired Vasily Alexiev, the legendary Russian super heavyweight weightlifter who became the first man to clean and jerk 500 pounds. For every one of these guys, great as they were, took a back seat to my number one and all-time hero. In fact, he's still my greatest hero, even today, over 7 years after his death. I'm talking, of course, about Muhammad Ali. Born Cassius Marcellus Clay, Ali was born in January of 1942 in a time of terrible racism in America. He learned to fight after someone stole his bike, and he wanted to be able to defend himself and his property. When he was 13, Emmett Till was murdered by a group of white men in Mississippi, and it affected Ali greatly. He later told his daughter that nothing in his life affected him the way that Emmett Till's murder did. I used to teach my freshmen about Emmett Till and his horrific murder when we covered To Kill a Mockingbird, and it always struck me how much it affected them so many years later. Cassius Clay used that anger to drive him in his boxing career, and in 1960, he won the light heavyweight Olympic gold medal, which he was said to have thrown in the river after he and a friend were refused service in a whites-only restaurant after returning from the Olympics. Clay became a Muslim and changed his name to Muhammad Ali. Muhammad means worthy of all praises, and Ali means most high. No man ever had a more fitting name. He would go on to win the heavyweight title 3 times, the first time in February of 1964, about 9 months before I was born. And in my mind, he was the greatest fighter who ever lived. However, I remember when he lost the title to Leon Spinks in 1978. I was 13 years old, and I cried myself to sleep that night. At that point, he was a shell of his former self, far past his prime, and he shouldn't have been fighting, but he just refused to give up. He won his title back, only to lose it again and get badly beaten up by Larry Holmes, who never wanted to fight his hero. Before the fight, Ali noticed he was slurring his words and his hands were shaking, but he needed the money and chose to fight anyway. A young Ali would have destroyed Holmes. An old Ali, with early signs of Parkinson's disease, never did stand a chance. Ali's Parkinson's would get progressively worse until his hands shook uncontrollably and he lost his ability to speak. It was at this point that the most heroic aspects of his character emerged. Rather than feel sorry for himself, he engaged the public. He made appearances. He visited children. He carried the Olympic torch at the 1996 Olympics. He talked about love and peace and decency. A man who could easily have hidden away from the world instead embraced it. A man who made a living by beating opponents into submission made a life by caring for others. He loved children and would often do magic tricks for them, but the greatest magic he ever pulled off was the example he set for others. When I was young, I admired Muhammad Ali for his skill as a boxer and his flair and confidence outside the ring. His outsized personality and seemingly overconfident air were a ruse to hide his innate shyness. But as I got older, I realized that Ali's greatness wasn't his boxing skill, though that was certainly the vehicle to it. His greatness was in the ways he used his fame and platform to show us the right way to conduct ourselves in life. He refused to fight in the Vietnam War because he didn't believe in it. He was the heavyweight champion of the world, and he gave up everything to stand against a war that went against his beliefs. It would have been easy for him to take a cushy assignment, do boxing exhibitions in the Army, and keep his title and reputation. But he walked away from all of it and would have spent the rest of his life in prison rather than fight in a war in which he didn't believe for a country that treated his race like second-class citizens. Ali was the greatest because he refused to swallow what the world tried to make him accept. He wouldn't accept that he was doomed to a life of poverty and submission because of his race. He wouldn't accept his name, Cassius Clay, because he said it was a slave name. He wouldn't accept what he considered an unjust war, fought by a country that treated people of color as second-class citizens. And finally, he wouldn't accept that Parkinson's disease would steal his happiness and ability to make those around him just as happy. I think he would have been the first to tell you that he was never more heroic than when he fought the disease in the final decades of his life. We all have a limited time in our lives when our physical abilities are at their peak, and Ali was no different. However, the greatest accomplishments in life aren't of a physical nature. They lie in simple acts of kindness and courage, examples we set for those who come after us. Ali's courage in the face of terrible racism and a debilitating disease and the acts of kindness he displayed throughout his life are what make him a hero to me. He once even sent my daughter an autographed photo after she wrote him a personal letter. How cool is that? I still have many heroes, but the one I most want to meet in the afterlife, hands down, that's the greatest, Muhammad Ali. As always, take care. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Love you guys.